if you go to the document, let me slide down on mine. In law, we've articulated the fourth piece now, which means we can't do the spontaneous questions. But then we say, but you can do the spontaneous questions. Instead, I would put in a different language there. So I just sent that on. It would say, let me pull up the document I just sent. Oh, I just sent it to, no, to Jennifer, but I can send it. Who needs it? Maybe I did send it to Leah too.
Sure, I have it. Can I maybe make a?
Are we talking about are we on the rule or are we on the?
Well, if we approve the permission slip, it has to align with the rule, and I'm going to make amendment to the rule.
Okay.
So it's the permission slip, okay? And let me pull that up if someone has that now. So on the permission slip, oh geez, wrong document. That's the, does it have a financial impact document? So where it says in accordance with Utah State Board of Education Rule R2774747-4, teachers may answer spontaneous student questions to provide accurate data, correct inaccurate or misleading information, or respond to comments that made by students in class. I would prefer, and did someone get that then? I don't know who's running.
Just a quick clarification, Chair Earl. For the consent document, are we hoping to change this? We're hoping to amend the fourth bullet point?
No.
Okay.
Nope, just that piece there that I just read that's at the bottom of that. Yeah, well, no, it says in accordance with, it's right under the full 4 bullet points.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I know there's not a line.
Oh,
here,
I see.
So it's hard to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. May answer
Sure.
spontaneous student questions to provide accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Jody
Sure,
Parker.
Since I feel like we're maybe going backwards. I understand that the agenda was listed this way. I think it might make more sense to do the rule first, and then we can make sure that that's in the same of whatever passes on the rule. Because as of right now, that is the language in the rule.
I would agree. We may need to just switch it and do the opposite, right? And then we can come back and do this. I think you're probably right. Yeah, or just, we could table it or just make a motion that I don't know, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Just move
table.
that we table this item temporarily until we've finished voting on the rule.
Okay. Any comments to that? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on that. And the motion is to table the parent request or the parent form until we finish the rule. All those in favor? Okay, that was unanimous. Let's go ahead and now we'll just slide to the rule. So, and I think that does make more sense because otherwise it would referencing it. So, so on the rule on line 215 to 219, it would read different than we have it here. And let me pull up what my recommended language was. So sent item. So I'm recommending that it says, a Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA, or they may direct students to parents. I don't know if that's to their parents. I don't know if it needs to be there or if to parents works. Or just two parents. It's the very last lines of the document.
Right. No, I'm on that. Okay. Did you send us the?
I will copy it and send it to you guys. I just forward it to you. Let's see. And I apologize. I typed it all up at the end of the meeting yesterday and just forgot that I didn't hit send. Yep.
While we work on that, I do have a question, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I try to put like myself in the classroom as the educator, and I mean, I'm asked the most random questions, even that are unrelated to anything that I teach often. And I'm wondering if is this part of the new law, the reason that we need this in here? Like, this feels very like, in a way, micromanagey to you can answer spontaneous questions. And I understand the topic and the sensitivity to it. But are we doing this because there's a reason that we need it in the rule from the law, or just because we want to be able to, like, people need guidance on it? Like, what is the origin story of these lines in the rule?
I don't know. Jody Parker, do you have you got feedback on that? This predates this rule today, or the recommended changes.
Yes. I do appreciate the addition of not solicited by the educator. I think that does give some tighter direction for teachers, especially new teachers, with that. So I really appreciate that clarity. I would encourage the board to allow the providing accurate data and inaccurate, misleading information. I would encourage that remain. The reason is I have had to go to many schools to support them when specifically like TikTok videos or YouTube videos get spread around and teachers aren't sure what to do. And they need to, allowing them to say correcting inaccurate or misleading information, what that does is it allows the teacher to say that's not true and not give more instruction. Our law and policy course is very clear that they can't give instruction, but they can say, no, that's not true. And any educator, right, can say that's not true. That video you're seeing is not true. So I would really encourage the inaccurate and misleading information to remain in the rule, to be very clear that that piece, it's lines 215 to 219, whoever's scrolling.
That makes sense.
That part to me is really important.
Okay, that makes sense. I just was like
my professional opinion.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
And I think that I do recommend that stays in there. It's just, to me, the way we have it worded just a little bit as I went and read back through it, does end up being just a little bit confusing, because it says that the law says you can't, and then we say you can, right? Because we use the same language. So I think it's just articulating what they can respond to, which is just that, the or inaccurate or misleading information. So, and it should be, and I'll just speak to the reason why it should be in accordance with what's already approved from their district. If they have content already approved, then answering a question from that, which maybe this leans into Sarah's a little bit, why would you not be able to talk about something that you've already provided instruction and already received approval for, right? It's when you get outside of those bounds and you start, or soliciting questions from students, that begins to take it off. So do I need to still send it to someone else? Oh, it is up there. Oh, now it is up there. Okay. Got you. Okay. So that would be the recommended change there. Take a minute and look at it. It's the very last lines. It's lines 215 to 218.
Exactly the same.
It should be in the actual agenda packet.
May I ask a question?
Yeah. Yes.
I had to read this like 6 times.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, so a Utah educator may correct inaccurate, misleading information in accordance to the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA and may direct students to parents. Yes. What would happen if this was, right, the students, the scenario I gave, the students are talking about a video clearly not approved by the LEA. Are we still does this limit the scope to not allow, and maybe I'm asking Jennifer this question, would this limit the scope so much that they couldn't respond to that? In my understanding, the reason we have this is so that we can tell students the things that, like, their rumors that they hear or the things they see on social media aren't true. Like, we're allowed to correct those dangerous misconceptions that they are hearing. That's always been my understanding of this rule. I've taught health education for 10 years and I've been in this position for 8. So in 18 years, that's always been my understanding of this, is that this is what allows us to say, no, don't do that. That's dangerous. And so I'm just wondering if the approved instructional materials limits us from that. So maybe that's a Jennifer question.
So just to clarify your question, the concern is that if they're speaking about a YouTube video that they saw online, your concern is that they wouldn't be able to speak to the YouTube video because it's not adopted by the LEA. Is that correct?
That's what I'm wondering, if this narrows to that. Yes, correct.
This is Michelle Buse, AG
Thanks,
Buse.
Michelle.
I don't think so. I think that the correction, any information you give in the correction needs to be from the instructional materials, is how I would read it.
That's how that was the intent.
Okay, I read it as being the correction itself needs to be from the instructional materials. The inaccurate information isn't going to come from the instructional materials.
Yeah.
The correction needs to come from the instructional materials,
And
is how I read it.
Yes, with the idea that it's already something that either has been presented or would be presented that is already been approved by the LEA. And wouldn't that lead to accurate information, I guess, is what I'm right.
One would hope. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So just again to clarify, Chair Earl, if a student comes in with a YouTube video that is inaccurate, an educator could correct that information as long as the correction was made with LEA approved materials and instruction.
Yeah, with content that would align with that. Yeah.
That's the intent.
Yeah. But why would you're saying they're bringing in YouTube videos?
There's discussion about YouTube videos.
Oh, discussion about it is different.
So from what I've heard from
maybe we need to say you cannot bring the YouTube videos in. You're saying about.
Just to clarify, I don't mean the educators are bringing it. I mean the students come into this class, the teacher shares information, someone raises their hand. Well, I heard on TikTok that if you use Dr. Pepper, does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
Do you have a question, Sarah?
Well, I was going to make a substitute motion
Okay.
to remove or health professionals for the purposes of providing accurate data or correcting, like that last piece after parents, like to keep that part in.
So why, and I guess, yeah. Wait till you guys get that up.
I think it provides some clarity on what we're, just like the question that I asked originally, which was like, what's the origin story of this entire piece? Keeping that or health professionals for the purposes of providing data or correcting inaccurate or misleading information or comments made by students in class regarding sex education. I think that it helps provide a lot more clarity of understanding what they mean and these scenarios that we're talking about.
So what help, and I guess the question becomes, what health professionals other than the school nurse? So that the problem is it leaves that so broad that it could be you're sending students to an outside, a minor. So a minor to an outside health professional of some kind to get some information. I think this is a high school class. They've been approved curriculum. There shouldn't be any information that within the core standards that is not covered in their curriculum that's approved. So it would allow for that. And if it's beyond that, it probably needs to go through a parent versus I'll send you to an outside health professional for information.
I will make a deal with you. If we take out health professionals, which I don't agree with, but it's okay. Student to parents, and then period, and then start with for the purposes of providing accurate data and correcting.
Isn't that happen on there?
No.
That's how it starts.
Oh.
Let me,
True.
it says, and yeah, it says it at the beginning. So that what's missing? Maybe I'm missing what's missing. For the purpose of correcting inaccurate data and correcting inaccurate. So you want inaccurate data on there too?
Well, I like this, like, it just adds like an understanding, I think there, but. Well, this is I was negotiating a deal, but.
Well, we can vote on that. We can vote on.
So your motion is to take health professionals out or to leave it?
I mean, I would prefer to keep it in, but.
Well, make your motion. We'll vote on it.
Can I speak to that for a second?
Yeah.
So it seems the addition is unnecessary because you've said that at the beginning. A Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information for the purposes of providing correcting inaccurate or misleading information. We've just started with the purpose of correcting as opposed to ending with it. So I'm not sure that your amendment is necessary to duplicate the language.
Yeah.
That's what I see there.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
I would like to know can I just get some context? Like an example, I forget your name.
Jody Parker.
Jennifer Parker. Would you give us an example here on what this is addressing, just so I can get a little bit more context?
I can give you some very specific examples if you like.
Yes, please.
I have been called to schools by administrators to support their teachers because videos come that into classrooms and the students ask, not always a health teacher, unfortunately, and the teachers have no idea what to do. And because the videos are sometimes quite obscene and recommend some pretty dangerous things. And so we also do have a question and answer guide for when students ask questions that are, and that's been approved by this board. There's several versions of it that have been approved differently. And of course we have the most recent one published. But sometimes those questions or the videos, we can't keep up with them. And so us publishing approved answers for questions, we can't keep up with what TikTok produces or YouTube or whatever the source is. And it is very frequent. I get a lot of calls and I get a lot of emails with asking for support. So the history of this and why it exists is because in my entire career, students ask teachers questions, or they say, hey, I heard this, is it true? Teachers need to be able to say no. No, it's not true. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it's helping. It's helping. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is the healthcare professional in this setting, if there are things that would be helpful to go to a healthcare professional to extend out further. Maybe that's where they need to go to include that. So my deal would be to unstrike we're healthcare professionals, but I'm just wondering in what context is that needed to be done as a follow-up question to you, where that do you feel would have been beneficial? Like, is it just with videos that they bring in or?
Well, I think there's also times that students ask for personal advice for personal situations, and teachers can't tell them what they should do. So they should guide them to their parent or probably in some cases a medical professional. And I honestly would call that a healthcare professional, not health, but that's different.
So my next question would be,
or medical professional would actually be the real term.
Okay. Is the concept, discussion, education around healthcare professionals built into instructional materials?
Instructional materials, not necessarily. It is part of our core standards, though.
The discussion of healthcare professionals?
Yes, medical professionals is in our sex education core standards in both middle school and high school of when to see a medical provider. So, our healthcare provider, I think is what it says on the standards. The wording in the standard is and when to see a healthcare provider.
Okay. Do you feel that if we didn't include, because I'm just addressing as the, I'm sorry, Member Earl.
No,
I'm
go ahead.
kind
Go
of
ahead. Keep
speaking.
asking questions.
Now I've lost my train of thought. Is it fair to say that the education and instruction about and around healthcare professionals and where and why and how you could, utilize that resource is built into curriculums, therefore it could guide those students towards that, I don't know, that discussion through the instructional materials that were adopted by the LEA?
For students who are opted into the instruction, I do believe they will get that. I do believe they'll get that information. For the students that are opted in, yes.
I see. So if they weren't opted in,
or if it happens before the instruction, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, we can't limit student questions to the 2 weeks when we're giving the instruction.
Okay. So obviously this applies outside of.
Well, not necessarily.
Ideally, no.
Not
Ideally,
necessarily.
no. Yeah.
If something is, they have content approved, it doesn't say you can only reference, if a child or a student asks a question during those 2 weeks, can you answer it related to content that's already been approved by the district? It would be any time within the year, right? Do you know what I mean? And maybe I'm misunderstanding. That window isn't narrowed, but it would give some direction to the educator so we don't have to provide a document that says, here, answer it this way, here, answer it that way. It actually, a district, if they've approved content that's already gone through and vetted for them, then they're accountable for the responses because it would be related to what they've already said you can, the way you can carry out this content anytime during the year. So maybe.
Chair Earl, can I respond to that?
Yeah.
For the purpose of spontaneous student questions, in the law and policy that I have been leading for the 8 years I've been at USBE, when the question is outside the scope of sex education, for example, if it happens in the English classroom or before class or something in that regards, I instruct teachers to not give any instruction. So we don't correct the information with instruction. We just correct the whatever the thing is with, no, that's not true. End of sentence. Because we can't give instruction to students who are not under parental consent and it's not within the scope of the course. So when it's outside of health education, so if this happens during nutrition, right? We're in nutrition, it's before class and the kids are talking about, hey, did you see this video? The teacher can say, whoa, that's not true. But now we're not going to tell them what is true because we don't have parental consent right now. We're talking about nutrition in class, not sex education. And so we can't give the approved instructional material because we don't have parental consent right now. But we can stop the clarification. We can stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would stop.
I guess we were just talking about this particular document. So I do understand that and appreciate that because that I think you're right. That would be the responsible response. So
I'm wondering though, on line 215, then a Utah educator, does that mean within the specific course or does that just mean an educator? Meaning when a question is asked to a English teacher instead of, a sex ed teacher.
So my understanding of the rule is that it is a Utah educator, but as Jody was pointing out, if it's not happening course specific, there's no instruction given. So if you are a psychology teacher teaching with consent about something to do with sex ed, then you are considered a Utah educator in that situation who can correct the information. If you're an English teacher teaching Shakespeare, you're not giving instruction on that information. Does that make sense? Or maybe Jody can correct me if I'm incorrect.
Oh, I would definitely default to our legal professionals on this.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm trying to, how does it relate to our document? Do you see what I'm saying? We went out here,
full
which
background.
probably needed to be, I think it was good clarification, but now I'm like, now getting back to the document itself, where is
Love that. Okay. So when you say document, do you mean the rule or
Well,
we
the
still?
the rule related to what we're looking at right here,
Okay.
because I want to make
Right,
sure
right,
we're
okay.
staying within the realm of where we're addressing. So
Excellent.
here, a Utah educator would mean
A Utah
you're
educator.
providing, you've
who
got
has
consent, you
Mhm.
provided that, and it would be within the scope of the approved. So if it were in biology, it would have to fall under the scope of the approved content within biology in order for them to give a response related to that. Or as was said by Jody, it was, it doesn't, right?
Yes. So in the scope of 474, we're only discussing a Utah educator who is at that time teaching with consent in a course that has information regarding sex ed.
Right? Michelle's thinking about it.
I don't know about that with regard to the spontaneous expression from a student. I don't think that that happens always within the scope of your discussion that is under the approval of the parent.
So what,
So,
do we need to add something to or clarify something?
no, I think the way that you have it leaves it broader and says that they can correct them at any time that it comes up. Like Jody explained, it comes up sometimes in a group of kids talking in English class. And so those kids are not under the permission and the intended instruction on sex education. It's not during that time that the spontaneous expression is brought up. And so the educator can correct the inaccurate or misleading information at that time. So I don't think it is limited to this specific section 4. I don't think is limited to the time that there is the parental permission to be teaching sex education.
Can I clarify something really quick on that?
Yeah.
So with earlier in the rule, it does give a directive that they're not allowed to instruct without the parental consent.
Correct.
So would that not supersede the?
That they're not able to give instruction, but they should correct. And like she said, and tell them, no, that's not
No, but they
accurate.
can't continue beyond that
But they can't give
unless they
instruction.
have consent.
Correct.
Okay. Does that clarify that? Was that?
Yeah. Anyone else here have a question?
I do.
Emily?
Just one more, and I just am wondering, I'm just a little hung up on the health professionals one, just to end there, period. But how do you define, how is health professionals defined? And maybe I missed it.
There is a definition, but it's actually medical professional. And it's not in this rule, it's in a different one.
Is it referenced?
Should it align with that?
Actually, this one.
I'd like to understand that.
Are you wanting to put it back in? I guess we need to vote on.
Yeah, it
I think I sent over an updated one, right?
So,
It would just be,
so would this be an amendment to your substitute?
yeah, my substitute would be changed to after, you'd put a period after data. And then the rest would be cut. Yep, and take the end off.
Okay, Utah educator. So it's the bottom one then? All right, let me read it out and we can make sure this looks correct. Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA, or they may direct students to parents or health professionals for the purpose of providing accurate data. Accurate data? That's what parents are going to provide. Accurate information? Is it just the data they're going to provide?
No, it's the whole thing.
I know
The whole thing, if a Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA, They may direct students to parents or health professionals for the purposes of providing accurate data.
Okay.
Okay, I was trying to not be
Can I-
repetitive because it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
repetitive. Yeah.
Can I just ask Jody if that clears, is that clear enough for teachers in your mind?
Yeah, I still have concerns over directing them to health professionals without knowing who they're directing them to.
And that's my concern
I
as well.
have-
I want
I have the
that.
definition if you would like me to
understand that
read it.
definition. Yes.
I have the
please.
definition in front of me if you would like it read.
Yes.
Yes,
please.
go ahead.
Utah Code defines health professional as an individual who is licensed or holds the individual out to be licensed or who otherwise provides professional, physical, or mental health services, diagnosis, treatment, or counseling, including an athletic trainer, physician, osteopathic physician, physician assistant, nurse, dentist, physical therapist, chiropractor, mental health therapist, social service worker, clinical social worker, certified social worker, marriage and family therapist, professional counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist, psychiatric mental health nurse specialist, or substance abuse counselor. That is the code definition for health professional.
Can you cite where that's located, please?
I would love to, except for it's not on my slide. If you give me like 2 minutes, I will.
No, that's okay. Absolutely. I appreciate it.
I did define it in the slides for law and policy for teachers. I weirdly didn't cite this one definition. It's the only one not cited. But I will give you that citation if you give me just a moment.
So, and I guess I'm going to actually speak against the motion just because, once again, we've got youth being referred to someone, and I say someone because it's pretty broad. Those are pretty broad, right? It could be anyone with a license, whether it's mental health, whether it's any physician, any nurse. We're sending them somewhere, and we're talking about a minor. I guess. Yeah.
We can vote on it. It's fine.
Yeah. So
I don't think that parents are even equipped to answer a lot of questions. So I don't hate the idea if we include parents in there, they can send to their parents or a health professional. Feels like depending on the scenario, which it's hard to determine what that could be. There are instances when it would be appropriate to send into a health professional. The experts in the field and I mean, I'm not just thinking of, there could be 1,000 different scenarios based on these YouTube videos and TikToks that we're hearing about. And so having the option to send parents, health professionals, depending on the scenario seems appropriate to me.
Can I just say, that phrase that parents aren't equipped to answer the questions worries me that we're going against code that affirms that parents have the primary role of educating a child and schools are secondary and supportive.
I
Emily,
don't have any other questions.
Okay. Okay, let
ready
me
to vote.
read it off then, and we'll take a vote. So a Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA, or they may direct students to parents or health professionals for the purpose of providing accurate data. All right, those in favor? Okay, there's one. Leanne, were you? No? Okay, those opposed? No. So that was Board Member Real in favor, and then 4 in opposition to that. Okay, we go back to the original wording. So that motion failed. Real. Board Member Real. I think that's just in general. Okay, so the original, whoops. Wait, just 1 second. Oh. Okay, so the original motion was to change lines 215 to 218 to read, a Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA, or they may direct students to parents. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Just a minute, we've got one person looking something up.
So it is in definitions. However, it's cited several times. So I think we could take our pick. Not very helpful. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
Yeah, I have found now 4 conflicting definitions of healthcare professional. So in code, but they're all in definitions. So like 58, chapter 58, and then 102 definitions. It is several times, and they're all a little different. So when this course was originally made, I'm not sure exactly which one they took. And it seems that that needs to be updated in my law and policy course. So I'm super excited that we had this conversation.
We appreciate it. And I think that's, I haven't voted, I'm sorry, hanging it up. I think that's where I'm hung up on, because I do feel that there are times where the health professional is beneficial and appropriate. But because it's so broad, I can't move forward knowing where that is. And so anyway, so with that, I will vote yes for this.
Okay, thank you. And those
Thank you.
in opposition?
No.
Okay, that motion passes 4 in favor and 1 opposed. Board member Rill is opposed. Board member Green, board member Wood, board member Earl, and board member, Brenton, as you're going down, I'm going board member Joanne. So I do think, and I just, and in related to this, I do think that within the improved instructional materials allows for the flexibility of, if it's things that are approved by the district, for some of the flexibility there for that information. So I think it still creates a little bit of flexibility there. All right. Are there other questions on this particular document? Anybody has?
I think just as a follow-up, I would be interested to see kind of where we land with those law and policies. If you want to keep us in the loop, as you, I guess, has triggered a deep dive. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Green. We are already redoing this law and policy because there are substantial changes with HB 281 and HB 233. So it's already being revised. That's just one more piece. So it'll be great.
Okay. Were there any other questions? I'm just looking back down it, see if I had any other notes. If not, then I'll seek a motion to approve. First, Sarah just stepped out. Approve this. Do you have any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. The motion before the board. Does someone want to make that motion? I guess I can make it.
I can do it if you want.
Yeah.
I move that the committee recommend the board approve R2777474 draft 2 on second and final reading. Oh, as amended.
As amended.
Yeah,
Okay.
make the board approve R2777474 draft 2 as amended on second and final reading.
Okay. The motion before the board is that the board approve R2777474 school instruction and sex education as amended and move to the full board. Did I say that right? For final approval for what? For second and final approval? What's the wording we usually use? For final approval. Okay. All right. Do we need to wait a minute? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that was 4 in favor. Board member Rill had to step out for a minute. Okay. And let's go back. We tabled, so we're going to need to take it off of the table. So I'll place the motion that we take off the table the R277474 school instruction and sex education consent form document. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so we've taken that back off the table. So then just I guess we just want to make sure the language aligns with what we just approved.
So I just copied and pasted the language with that beginning in accordance with Utah State Board of Education.
Okay. Okay, so this is the proposed amendment to the document. And this is the parent consent form for sex education instruction. It would now read, in accordance with the Utah State Board of Education Rule R277474-7-4, a Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved. Am I reading that right? We got a
Response.
So in accordance with the approved response, we had respond. We just flip that out.
I don't think we can put spontaneous student questions in there. It was, and that's what I'm saying. It's got to, because we're almost conflicting. Yeah. I think you're okay. Or direct to parents, whatever the language. Yes, that's okay. Yep. Let me try it one more time. In accordance with the Utah State Board of Education Rule R277474-7-7, a Utah educator may correct inaccurate or misleading information in accordance with the approved instructional materials adopted by the LEA, or they may direct students to parents.
Just a minor detail. You read it as -7 instead of -4.
Okay, sorry.
It's -4, right?
Right.
Okay.
-7, -4. And that aligns, right? Just making sure. Okay. Sorry, you're saying I read it backwards.
You said -7-4. You said -7-7, and it's written -7-4.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that correction. No, it's good. Okay. Hopefully, I don't know if everybody heard that. It's R277474-7-4. Okay. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor, go ahead and vote. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. It was unanimous. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's unanimous. Okay. Are there other questions on the document before we take a final vote on this?
No, I do have something to say that I just feel like as we've been, if that's okay, Chair.
Go ahead, remember real.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I've been thinking a lot about all of this, a lot of our health education, and I worry, and this isn't something that I can solve, but I do worry that we know that kids are increasingly more sexually active, that we have parents and their role obviously is important, but that a lot of students in our state don't have great parental units and often don't have the support, or parents don't have the time. And even the parents that are capable and entitled enough to have the time to spend with their students, they don't always have accurate information to provide their students. And I know that in order to successfully bring the success sequence and enforce it and encourage it, I guess, not enforce it, but encourage the success sequence, a huge piece of that is family planning. Students need to know they need to be able to have the equipment and the tools to decide when and if they're going to have children. And that is a huge piece of the success sequence, right? And so I worry that because we know this about our students and we know this about the students, often their family dynamics can be so different, that I worry that a lot of the ways that the laws have been going, and even with the restrictions and the rules, that we're setting our students up for failure because we're not giving them all of the tools and the resources they need to have accurate and appropriate family planning. And it's not that I don't trust parents or that I don't trust the curriculum and all the things that we have approved, but I do worry that we're sending students to go golfing with lacrosse sticks, or we're trying to, we're not giving them all the things that they need, all of those roadblocks and barriers we put in because we're worried about the educators teaching certain subjects are actually could be really harmful for students in their family planning and getting the information and knowledge that they need to make the right decisions and have informed decisions. So I don't have anything against these documents, and I think that the rule considering the law is fine, but I just worry in general for the future of our students. If we do want them to be successful and want them to plan appropriately, we can't make assumptions that they're not having sex and that they're not sexually active. And we can't make assumptions that then when they go home that their parents are giving them the information that they need. So maybe it's something outside of school that they're getting that information from and being able to get the tools and resources that they need to appropriately plan. And because they're going to be faced with these decisions. And I think part of education is giving them the information that they need to make good decisions, to have good family planning. So I just wanted to say that as we talked about it today.
Can I give a response? I would say that public education was not meant to answer all questions and to provide all solutions to everything. And if we rely on public education to do that, first of all, we've set our public education system up for failure, and that we are to provide foundational things, but we are not to be an answer for it, because a lot of these things weave into people's philosophical views, their religious views. Those can't be answered in a setting of this time. But what we are asked to do is to provide basic information, and that should be accurate. So I do think, we're not a solve all at the school, and if we become a solve all at the school, I think that becomes problems because we really can't do that. But I do think we need to be the best that we can be, and I think this lands in a good place. So, all right, we are going to did we take a vote on that one? Not yet. Okay, does someone want to make the motion? Or you want me to just make it? You guys are like quiet. Our other committee's really loud and noisy, and so. Yeah, what do you want to make the motion? Yeah, I think it's up there. As amended. Oh, it does say as amended. Sorry, as amended is there. And what? We need to send it to the board for final approval?
You already recommended that the board approve in the motion.
Oh, okay. The committee recommended the board approved. Got you. Okay. Usually it's at the end. That's why I was. Okay. The motion before the committee is that the committee recommends that the board approve the consent form document as amended in R277474 school instruction and sex education. All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Okay. And thank you to our staff for being here. So Jody, thank you. Appreciate your time to help answer questions. Okay. All right. We will move to the next agenda item, which is R277920, School Improvement and Leadership Development. And who will be presenting on that? What's that? We just approved it. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know.
Was going to do it. We have staff here.
Okay, at least introduction. Do you want to do the introduction? Then we'll see if we need someone to follow up that's been doing that. So, all right.
Today, so we probably just need to text him.
Okay, and you can decide. I don't know how detailed our questions are going to be. If they are, then maybe we need some additional support.
Okay, just wait.
Yeah, let's just wait.
Okay.
Unless I didn't have a lot, that's why. But no, we want you to present on it. Tell us what the change. Can you talk to the changes and why we're doing what we're doing? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sarah Whipke, Director of School Improvement. Good morning, everyone. The Finance Committee, actually, where maybe Ben is, requested that we make changes specifically to reduce the burden that has been placed in our board rule, R277-920, around specifically the schools that are designated in federal school improvement. And so the focus then is moving the board rule to focus mainly on state school improvement. What was happening is federal school improvement language was brought into the board rule, and I'm sure it was, very good intentions to try and create some collaboration between those, right, as we would want. And in that, it placed additional burdens, I think, very unintentionally on our schools that are federally designated. And so the team went through, removed the language that placed burdens. In addition, we removed some old language that was from COVID about closures and that sort of thing. So, not needed anymore, and hopefully not anytime soon. And then in addition, made sure that there was, of course, still alignment with code and budget feasibility.
Okay, does anybody have any, so I guess what I'm hearing and what I'm kind of reading, so this is good to know the background on this a little bit, is that it's trying to create simplicity to those that we've chosen, right? Our Springboard, our Elevate schools, that they're not having to carry more burden than, or more requirements than are necessary. Am I articulating it? Close? Okay.
It does clarify, and the focus of the rule is definitely our state school improvement programs, which, as you mentioned, are Elevate and Springboard. What the burden was, it was actually placed on our CSI, TSI, ATSI schools, which are federal school improvement. So what was happening is the federal school improvement schools have, requirements that they need to do from federal code, but then the state was bringing in additional requirements. So then they had requirements coming from here and requirements coming from here, and it was a burden. And so finance asked for us to go ahead and reduce that burden if at all possible.
Okay, so let me ask a question then.
Yes.
A school that does not qualify for the federal but it qualifies for the state criteria.
Yes.
Does that happen? First of all, maybe I better ask if that happens, because the state criteria there would be so much overlap. Are we having any unique ones? They could, though, ask for help, right? That could be something they would initiate. So in that case, it would be a yes.
And so the majority, not all of it, but the majority of our federal school improvement is non-Title I schools, is Title I schools. Our state is non-title.
Okay.
So there's less overlap, or less likely overlap.
Is there still enough with those that don't qualify under the federal? Is there still enough for them to, right? We didn't loosen things so much that it doesn't still create, does that make sense? Enough requirement pieces or accountability pieces?
No. There's still accountability for both. It's just not having double accountability for the federal. Yep.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. We're still
great.
We're not trying to loosen it so much that we didn't have the requirements in there. Okay, anybody else have additional questions?
Sorry, I may have to clarify for myself again. We have TSI, CSI, federal programs. We have Springboard, Elevate, non-Title I schools. These are only Title I schools?
No. So CSI is actually split out into 3 categories.
Okay.
So there are some that are title only and some that are both. So it could be a title or a non-title school. It's just if they're in that bottom 5% and have specific student groups that need additional support.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Was that enough? Okay, very good. All right, I'm looking for a motion then. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there a motion
Go
from
ahead
the
with
body?
that. I move that the committee approve R277920 School Improvement Leadership and Development Draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Okay, so the motion before the committee is that the committee approves R277920 School Improvement and Leadership Development Draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All those in favor? Aye. That was unanimous. Okay, thank you. See, we did need Ben, don't get me wrong, but we were able to do it without Ben. So there you go. There you go. Okay, let's go. We have an update now, an AI update from Matt Winters. Okay, and will you incorporate, you'll tell us what you're doing, and then if we have questions. So we'll let you present, and then if there's any questions, we'll wait till the end unless someone else compelled, but write it down and I think we'll let him do his presentation. Okay, go ahead. Turn you, yeah.
There we go. forgot. Apologize. Matt Winters, USB AI Education Specialist. Here are some updates this month. We have 3. The first one is some policy updates. Over the last 6 months since I started the position, I have been working with the Office of AI Policy, a new department over in the Department of Commerce here in the Utah State, or State of Utah. And we have been working on some regulatory mitigation plans. As the board well knows, AI is a fast-moving, ever-changing conversation. And the Office of AI Policy has been tasked by the legislature to create regulatory mitigation plans where laws and codes in the state interfere and kind of cause problems with appropriate rollouts of artificial intelligence. And so we've been speaking for the last 6 months about what those would look like, and we've concluded those conversations as of about a month ago. I gave them some lead time after legislative session because it was punishing for everyone. But we got those regulatory mitigation plans back just about 5 days ago. I'm reviewing those, and we're hoping to include them in an update of the framework here over the next month. The framework update is going to be partially that, those regulatory mitigation plans for LEAs to work with. And then on the other side, a glossary of key terms around artificial intelligence that's been asked for by the LEAs across the state. So that's my policy updates. Number 2, over the last month, we started at USET, the Utah Coalition of Educational Technology. We rolled out a grant-funded program through IHC here at USB to train up educators on artificial intelligence across the state. The grant was funded to the tune of $500,000. More than half of that is going directly into teachers' pockets for doing the program. The program consists of 3 layers. The first layer is 1 hour professional development where we go out to their school, train them on artificial intelligence. Then a 2-hour Canvas course that they have to complete that gives them some community support on artificial intelligence. And then finally, they write a lesson plan in their content area and grade level that uses either a student-facing use of artificial intelligence and or teaches about artificial intelligence in their content area. As far as we know, this is the first time that anyone globally has put together this kind of database of lessons, and those will be publicly available at the end of the program in fall through a couple of different resource sites here in the state of Utah globally. So we'll be able to give those out to everyone around the world. We're very excited about this program, and so far we've identified over 200 sites that we will be able to go out to over the next 4 months to train up teachers. Very, very active program. And then, sorry, board member Green? Over 250, somewhere in that range, 200 and 250. The numbers keep growing, and my director, Emma Moss, that we hired to help out with the program is we're constantly updating. We were actually talking this morning. We were like, we haven't looked at it for 2 days and we're both scared. So we have to go look at those almost every day and check those out. But we're in every corner of the state right now and doing programming with everywhere as much as we can. My third update is we are doing some internal PD for USB. We've working with the Employee Action Committee to get that done every 2 weeks. We're doing some trainings on artificial intelligence, some updates on Canvas as well, which is our platform for online learning for a lot of our departments. And then also working towards a possible second summit around artificial intelligence over the next couple of months. These trainings are all virtual. A few of them we will do kind of hybrid, but we've had really good attendance. The first one we had over 150 employees. This last week we had almost 100. And so they're all recorded and are viewable by anybody in the agency in post as well. Those are my updates.
Okay, questions? All right, go ahead, board member Wood. See you looking at me.
May we be invited to one of your site visits?
Absolutely. I can get a calendar. We keep track of in fact, we have a training going on right now with Granite School District and their coaching team. So we have them happening a few times a week with these teachers. And so we would be happy to have you come out and get a calendar to the board.
If they're in our districts, it'd be great. It doesn't sound like it would be a really big time commitment, but it would be great to see what they're learning and have a deeper understanding.
I'd also be happy to share the training in full with the board and possibly do that with everyone as well if at some point, if that would be helpful.
Maybe we need a work session.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, that would be great. If you were in my area, I'd definitely see if I could go and listen in on that. So I just have one question.
Please.
Is AI doing a good job of correcting homework if it's scanned in? Meaning if I'm talking myself. Like if I had a math student that was submitted a hard to read math assignment, could I use AI to help me interpret it?
Are you talking, sorry, now you're going to get me into like coach mode here.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
I'm kidding. I can talk to you offline. I was just
Okay.
wondering.
All right.
So,
Yeah. Cause
all right.
we can totally do that. I can talk to you about that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for the continual updates. I think it's good for the board to go listen and then just for us to be aware of what's going on.
Absolutely. The conversation is so fast moving that it's really helpful for me to sort these through and get them back to the board as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to share my 87-year-old dad's story. He said, next time I'm writing, I have to talk in church, I'm going to use a ChatGPT to write my talk. And I said, Dad, but how will you learn anything? And he said, I'll learn everything ChatGPT has to tell me. And I said, Dad, how will you know that it's accurate and correct? Well, I won't, but I won't have to have written a talk. And I'm like, well, you're 87. I'm just going to.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay. I'm seeking a final motion. The motion before us is to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.